Hey guys, Tim here, back with another Chicago Northwestern Harvard Subdivision in N scale, and this is a massive update. I am home after my work trip. I didn't actually take this train for my work trip, but I caught the California Zephyr coming into downtown Omaha about 8 hours late. Usually gets in very early in the morning. So I thought I'd start this episode off showing you a little bit of the real life thing before we get into the big layout update. So if you watched the last video, you know that I had to kind of pause momentum because I had a fairly lengthy, it was a nearly 2 week long work trip to Philadelphia. This is actually, if you can make it out, that's Lake Michigan, that's Chicago, as my plane was flying past. I actually ended up landing, even though I was in Philadelphia, I flew to Washington, D.C. It is prohibitively expensive to fly to Philadelphia, but it also gave me an excuse to take the metro from Reagan up to Union Station and ride the Northeast Corridor up to Philadelphia. And I have to say, it's been 2 years since I've been to Union Station and ridden a train from there, and Union Station really seems to have its groove back. There was a lot more life and activity going on, which was always good to see. But there's actually kind of a layout related reason that I was excited to take this trip, because unlike last time, I took the Northeast Regional. So last time I took the Acela, which was cool, but on my layout, the Chicago Northwestern, for some of its passenger operations, is using Amfleet coaches, which are the same kinds of coaches that are used on the Northeast Regional. So I'd never been in an Amfleet coach before, and it was really nice. It was spacious, it was comfortable, plenty of space for luggage, and originally I thought that in the layout we would be ditching the Amfleets as soon as possible, but I think I'm going to have the CNW live up to its cheap and nothing wasted nickname and have them stick with the Amfleets a little bit longer, because I was thoroughly impressed with how it was to ride in it in 2024. And remember, the layout is set 10 years in the past, in part to give time for models to get made. So in 2014, the Amfleets would be in even better shape. So again, it was kind of cool to see for a little layout research purposes to ride it in person. And it's always fun to go on the Northeast Corridor. It's like the one decent stretch along with Brightline where trains get up to decent speeds. This is actually, I clocked it and I synced it up with the video you're seeing. This is the speed the train was actually going with what you're seeing in the background there, which was always, which was super cool. So the one downside of this trip was it meant I really needed to pause momentum. And while you're seeing this B-roll of me making my way up to Philly, I want to tell you what we're going to talk about in this video. I had one singular goal for this video and for my next benchmark progress, which was to get all of the mainline track laid, all of it wired. This is 30th Street Station in Philly. All of the track wired so I could actually run all the way around the layout. And so I wanted to make sure, while I was eager to get it done, I also didn't want to rush it, because especially with the track work along the drop section, that's a really easy thing to mess up. By the way, I took the SEPTA Market Frankfurt line to get to my hotel. I wasn't very impressed. Also, they're trying to rebrand it as the L, and as someone who used to live in the Chicago area, there is only one L, and it is certainly not in Philly. This was the view from my hotel, by the way. It was right on the riverfront. It was gorgeous, and so it was really cool to see boat activity, along with they've got some museum ships. You can see on the left side, that is the USS New Jersey. It's a battleship that's now a museum, so that was really cool to see. And then going home, I had some changing plans, and I did fly straight from Philly, so I took SEPTA's airport line down to the airport, which was actually really convenient. Although I think these are silver liners. I think this is what these are called. They are definitely dated, unlike the Amfleets on Amtrak. Let's just leave it at that. I was not fighting a lot of people to get on this thing at 6:45 in the morning on a Sunday. But it was a really nice ride to the airport, because it actually takes you straight into the airport. Like when you get off, you're literally across the street from the terminal entrance. So it's super convenient. I would put it up there with the metro access to Reagan and DC. Very nice. That part I will definitely utilize in the future if I have to go back to Philly on business. So it was time to fly home, and I thought this was just going to be B-roll for this video, but actually I caught something really cool. This is my plane getting ready to land in Omaha. So we're flying over Council Bluffs right now, because we're coming in from the east side, and we're about to fly over the UP yard in Council Bluffs. keep your eye on the bottom of the screen, and you're going to see a very recognizable color scheme. So that's the heritage fleet, but then notice there's one passenger car that stands out. I was like, that is a Chicago Northwestern passenger car. What is it doing in Council Bluffs? You can see I took this picture and I posted it on a Facebook group of former CNW employees, and that is CNW car 553, which was actually used for private service on Metra, where you could pay a fee and have a private car if you rode on the North Line. I guess it had a breakdown, and then they shipped it out to Council Bluffs because UP wants it for some reason with their heritage fleet. But that was super cool just to catch it as I was flying in Omaha to see again that yellow and green stands out even against the UP yellow. But it was time. I had landed. I got home. Obviously, first spent time with the family. But once that was done and they were in bed, it was time to get to work because again I had a pretty important benchmark that I wanted to hit for this video. So let's get right into ignore the Warhammer terrain that was just there temporarily, but it was time to get going. So I laid out all the flex track that I was going to need. And in addition, I had all the remaining switches that I needed because there are crossover interchange tracks. I don't know why I'm brain farting on the terminology, where tracks can switch between the eastbound, the westbound, and the center track. And then also I needed a couple more switches to finish the passing siding and the start to the industrial spur that goes to right here. You won't see it yet, but this is where the layout will jaunt out and where the future Amazon intermodal facility will be before it comes back in. Now, I did run into one issue. If you're looking at that stack of concrete flex track and looking at how much empty roadbed there is, you're probably going, that's not enough. That's not enough flex track. And you're absolutely right. That's because I did it in 2 orders, and one of the orders they sent me entirely code 80 instead of code 55. But I will say this though. I emailed them immediately. I didn't realize it because I didn't unpack it until I got home. I had ordered it from Midwest Model Railroad, and I emailed them within an hour. They replied, and they shipped out the correct track with 1 day shipping. I got there the next morning, so huge shout out to them. I appreciate it. But this is all pretty straightforward. So let's just roll the clips and use the benefits of digital technology and speed through the track laying and roadbed laying. And as you see me work on soldering and installing some feeders, we'll bring back to the narration for this because it's just about time to show you that important moment. Although I will show you a quick, I caught this while I was filming me laying the roadbed and track and everything. Our dogs, Penny and Oreo, came down to the train room and decided to make a cameo appearance. So here you go, meet the dogs. They were having fun while I was trying to get the track laid. They're good dogs. Now, I will say this, as we do one last pan, I tried to clean things up, and I wanted to do one last pan before I turned the DCC system on. While I did get all the feeders installed, I very quickly ran just very loose wiring for bus wiring. I'll go back through, because you're going to see wires drooping and hanging. You'll have a chance to see, in the next video, probably I'll tighten up the wiring overall. I was less concerned about that because I just want to make sure that the feeders were in good shape. The bus wiring, that can be cleaned up and made stronger later. But it was time. All the track was down, including the sidings and everything. And so it was moment of truth time. And you can see, again, I in the world of the layout, I figured this was a corporate inspection train looking at the progress of the modernization of the Harvard sub. This is all old track. None of this track. This track was all laid almost a year ago now, up until right where you see the box with the drill bits, where these sidings are, where that'll be where Molon coil and steel will be. Now we're on to the new track, and you can see we're going through very smoothly. And partially I wanted to run these because these Rapido coaches are a little finicky, and so I figured this would be a good test to make sure the track work was actually in good shape. You see we're passing through the crossings right there. We're making our way around. Again, this is where the passing siding starts, and you can see there's an empty switch right there. That will eventually be the industrial spur when I build that out. And you can see we're going through that S-curve, which I just think adds a nice visual flair. Now, when this rounds the curve, you're just gonna see it's gonna die here in a second, because past that last track gap, because I blocked these off with isolating rail joiners, so you're gonna see where I stopped wiring. It's right there. But I feel great, and then I was like, okay, I need to run more trains. I wish you could have seen the smile. It just felt so good. First try, I plugged it in. First train ran smoothly, so I was like, we got to run more trains. But look at how awesome this prototypical length Metra train looks on those curves. And it's running left-hand main, of course, and it's running cab forward because we're heading towards Chicago. But I'm just really glad that I made those adjustments to the track plan to account for broader curves, because I just think it makes trains like this look a lot more natural. But there's still plenty of straight segments like this right here, where you can also fully appreciate the length of the train just making a straight run across the layout. So I could not be more thrilled with how it ended up. And there's still more work to do, and you can see, just to really hit the point home on how much running track there is, I started 2 trains at the same time on opposite ends of the first level, and they're crossing right here. It's still point to point, but with so much track available and done now, I can just step back and enjoy watching the trains run before I have to make any adjustments or slow the speed down or anything. And you can see this is passing through what will be the future Arlington Heights metro station. So I did want, before I'm going to close the video up by letting you see some trains run, but there were some comments in the last video requesting to see the whole scope of the layout, because they weren't visually quite sure where everything was. And it's been a minute, I realized. So this is the lower level staging yard in the unfinished room that is adjoined to the main train room. So then trains come out through that entrance, They pass. This is Heller Lumber, which is a real rail serve industry in Arlington Heights. We pass through the first lift out, and then what this will be the future downtown Arlington Heights. That station's just a stand-in from the first version of the layout at the old house. The new station will be on that side because I want to have a road there, and I want to have low relief buildings because there's some pretty cool buildings in downtown Arlington Heights, and I want to try and scratch build and represent those pretty well. As we round the corner, probably some apartments right here just because that's what's actually there in real life. And then I'm not sure what I want to do back there. This is the next rail served industry on site, Molon Coil and Steel. And in the photos I've seen, it's boxcars. I might get a little creative and do some steel coil cars as well. That old siding is there in real life. I'm not really sure what purpose it serves anymore, but I figure I model it because I had the space. This will be, again, additional just background structures. This obviously we're into the dropout section now. And this will be the Arlington racetrack station. So this is where Arlington, well, this is actually what the Bears briefly thought about moving their stadium to, but it has a separate metro station that will be served, that will serve folks here. Maybe since I'm in an alternate timeline, I will have the Bears move here because it would make for some interesting operating sessions on game day, extra metro runs and stuff, and maybe the CNW even does a run there. Continuing on, after the station, this exists in real life. There is a maintenance of way siding where you can see, but I obviously didn't have the space. I compressed it because these switches take up a lot of space. But this exists in real life just west of the station. I'm going to put a signal bridge right here because, again, there is one in real life. I do plan on wiring it up using block detection to make it actually work. And then we're moving into the more industrial area. Again, this is an actual passing siding that is on the actual Harvard sub. That switch right there is where I'm backing up will eventually be a pretty lengthy, like an 8-foot long section that's going to come out that will serve two industries. One that actually is rail served in real life that needs tank cars, and then the other is the Amazon Intermodal before we come back on and merge. Right back here are it's a neighborhood, so I'm going to have some houses and stuff, which will be a nice kind of change up from the more industrial that we just came out of. I'm probably going to do a rail crossing right there, and then we move into, this is a more forested area. I'm going to sculpt some hills and stuff to also have some height variation right here, and then just past where you can see the train is parked and where the bridge will go, that's Palatine, just past where the bridge currently is. So that's what the first level of the layout looks like, and in a later video I'll show you what the plan is going to be for the second level, which will primarily feature Crystal Lake, Illinois, and a little bit more beyond that. But this is what the first level looks like. So what I want to talk about briefly is kind of my next steps for my next few videos, because now that the track is laid, it's kind of like, well, now what? So I want to finish doing proper wiring. I also want to install the missing ties at all of the joints between the flex track, get that looking good, weather all the track rails because that's really messy and time consuming, so I want to just rip that band-aid off and get that done. And then the next big thing is I want to get that signal tower installed, like I mentioned, and I also want to get the backdrops up. I figure that's the next critical thing before I do anything else, is get the backdrops up. Once the backdrops are up, then I can start to add foam hills. I can shape the landscape. I can start to work on terrain and other things. But those are the immediate priorities: is finishing up track work, get the wiring in a good spot. You can see a bunch of the droppers right there. Get the wiring in a good spot, get that signal bridge installed, and get the backdrops up. So those are kind of my immediate next steps. But thank you so much for watching. It feels so good to be able to have trains going all the way around the first level of the layout. And that's where I'm going to leave you, is some shots of trains running. Please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help. It helps me out. Because once I hit 1,000 subscribers and get enough watch time, those ads that you have to watch start going to me instead of just YouTube, which means it'll help keep the hobby construction going. So thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next video update, and enjoy some shots of trains running around the layout.